old the last time I played in the league, and we won the championship that year. It was almost 10 years ago.
I understand. I didn't realize how good of a condition it was when I was 45. And I got hurt. It really shows you.
I mean, you look young on the outside, but the mileage don't change because of what the car looked like, you know? The mileage is still mileage.
The mileage.
But it was fun though. It was good exercise.
Did you want a hot dog? I was there working with me, so what'd you say, again?
Hmm?
What'd you say?
I don't remember.
You played the first game, but then you went run 3 miles. He wasn't done. He wasn't done exercising.
Well, he didn't play that much the first game.
Okay.
So he was just, that was more of like a warm up for him. Because he didn't really come into the second half. They didn't know what he could do. Because he showed up late, so he didn't get to practice. So.
He's dope, bro.
Oh, it's 7 o'clock already.
We still cups up there. Another one for Jonathan.
service is provided in high definition by free conference call AOE.com. Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
Shalom, what's going on with you?
Boy, am I
Code or
sore.
phone number you have dialed
Really?
is incorrect.
From what?
For
Please
Sunday,
check your credentials
I haven't been
and phone
active.
again.
Oh, you
Please
play both
re-enter your
those games.
access code followed by the pound or hash
Oh,
sign.
my arm is sore. I don't throw football.
Oh, that's what's really sore.
My arm sore, my leg sore, my shoulder.
Access code accepted.
Just a little.
Yeah, my shoulder's jacked up too. Cause you know I used to
The
throwing that kind of force.
in the conference.
Are we playing again Sunday?
Yeah. Okay, Sunday.
Same time?
I don't know. I'll know on Friday. Hey brother, get your phone. The other phone. It's already on. It's on mute. Thank you, brother.
The fight of your life. I got to work and locked my keys in the car this morning.
What?
Yep.
What'd you have to do? You had to call a locksmith?
Yeah, so I was like, all right, cool. I'll call
AAA.
yeah, the lockout service.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot to do it because work was so busy. So when I was getting off,
Oh man.
and I'm like, why can't I find my keys? I was like, oh yeah, I locked it in the car this morning.
Oh man. It's the worst.
So then they took a long time to get there.
Well, you made it to study. Praise God.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right, let's go.
Did you park on the street?
Hmm?
Did you park on the street?
No, it was, we had a parking deck. So it was in the parking deck. But for at work.
The recording has started.
All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. All right. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yahshua, we thank you, Yah, once again for your mercy. We thank you for your guidance throughout the week, Yahweh. And as we come today, Yahweh, we freely come here together, Yah, to rightly divide out of your word, Yahweh, and search for the hidden treasure that you planted in that field, Yahweh. We have sold everything and we have bought this field. And we ask, Yahweh, that you light up our path, Yahweh, before us, Yahweh. Direct our steps, Yahweh. We accept the chastening, we accept the affliction that you send our way when we do things that displease you. The same way we accept the blessings and the pleasure and the joy and the mercy that you extend in our lives when we do those things that are pleasant unto you, Yah. For we truly believe in these curses, so we know that if these curses exist, then by the same commandment, these blessings exist, Yahweh. If we would just stop forfeiting all the great things that you have in store for us, Yahweh, through our own disobedience and lack of faith, Yah. So we ask, Yah, that you allow your spirit to reside with us in this study. And not only in this study, Yah, but also when we walk in the street in the day-to-day, when not necessarily anybody is looking at us that we know, but strangers, Yahweh, that they may observe us and see our strange and peculiar ways and seek after you and see the blessings that you put before your servants, Yahweh, that walk against the world, Yah. Yeah, all these things we humbly come before you. We make no demands. We humbly beg before you with all faith and belief through your only Son, Yahweh, that you sent here in the flesh, the begotten, the Mashiach himself, Yahweh, through Yahshua HaMashiach. We thank and pray. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, boy. All right, shalom. My name is Yadon Yasharal, my brother Yonatan Yasharal. Shalom. And the title of today's Bible study is The Fight of Your Life. And this is part 2. We're going to continue for where we left off last Shabbat. And again, just to kind of recap, we went over that we must be born again to enter into the kingdom. We also went over the fact that this carnal mind that we are born with is enemy with Elohim. And that is the fight that is constantly going on in our lives. Before we face the fight that's outside of us, we have to deal with the fight that's within, which is the flesh fighting with the spirit, the light versus the darkness, fighting with each other to see who is going to be in control. And it's almost like that man that had those demons, where it's like, oh, we're, what is your name? Oh, we're many, we're a legion. And each one is fighting to have control, to see, to speak and control this vessel. Well, it's the same thing with us. The flesh is fighting with the spirit to control this temple that we have. And we also went over how the flesh lusts against the spirit. And we finished with Psalms 19, Tehillim, with King David speaking of asking Yah to keep him back from presumptuous sin, which is sin done in arrogance. Arrogance is something that is a fleshly type of spirit or emotion that happens when we are exalted in some kind of way, a lack of humility. And if we can work on staying humble and cognizantly work to condescend to those in lower estate instead of trying to believe we're above them because of some materialistic ways or whatever, we can fight a lot of that presumptuous sin. So we're going to pick up in 2 Samuel chapter 11. 2 Samuel chapter 11, and we're going to go over David and how he fell, and how he fell from lusting against the spirit. So we're going to 2 Samuel chapter 11, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
One of the more sad stories in the book.
Right. And, Yahweh called him a man of his heart. So, for someone to do something so wicked, but Yah can still call him a man of his heart, that shows you how heavy Yahweh's repentance.
That's true.
And praise Yah that he's that merciful that he says that I will have the whole host of heaven enjoy over the repentance of a single sinner.
Indeed. 2 Samuel chapter 11 and verse 1. And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Yasharal, and they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And David sent messengers and took her. And she came in unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness, and she returned unto her house.
So she was purified from her uncleanness, meaning she just came off of her cycle. And that is a very fertile time for women. So you have a very a perfect storm brewing here. But if we go back to the beginning, it says, and it came to pass after the year was expired. So after the year's expired is what time?
It's like spring.
Springtime. Springtime is the time when the kings go to war. So at the time when the kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Yasharal, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. The king is supposed to be at war. The king don't stay at home while the soldiers go out. Just like the captain sinks with the boat. Well, the king is supposed to be out there. He represents the children of Yasharal. Does he have to be in the front line? No, obviously not. But he has to be there to make calls and make decisions. But he's feeling, at this point of his career, he's done a lot of good. He's got a triple platinum album.
Yeah.
David kills tens of thousands.
Man.
So, he's feeling real good about himself. But when you feel as if you have done enough work and you start to pull back and don't do the job that you're supposed to do for your nation, it's not going to be too long before sin is going to be waiting at your doorstep for you.
Mm-hmm. Verse 7.
And what is he looking at this woman taking a naked bath for anyways? Mm-hmm. This is somebody else's wife. Mm-hmm. This is why Yahshua says, if you look upon a woman to lust after in her heart. And a woman in Greek was gune. Gune in the Greek means a woman, and more specifically, a married woman. You have committed adultery in your heart already.
It's actually at verse 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman conceived and sent and told David and said, I am with child. And David sent to Joab, saying, Send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. And when Uriah was come unto him, David demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered. And David said to Uriah, Go down to your house and wash your feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his sovereign, and went not down to his house. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, Came you not from your journey? Why then did you not go down to your house? And Uriah said unto David, The ark and Yasharal and Yehuda abide in tents, and my sovereign Joab and the servants of my sovereign are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into mine house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing.
So this is a righteous brother here. David, see, the first sin, and this is why it says, if you do good, will you not be accepted? But if you don't, sin lies at the door. And and unto you will it lead you, and you will desire it, basically. In other words, once you do that first sin, if you don't correct that situation, whereas you might have did an accidental sin or a moment of weakness sin, you're going to continue doing it. And a perfect example is a lie. When somebody lies and you catch them in the lie, most people will continue lying unless they're going to be, all right, I messed up. They'll continue to lie after lie after lie after lie after lie to cover the previous lie. Whereas the first lie, you made it kind of nervous, and now you just making up all kind of stuff. So David should never have looked upon this married woman. Mistake 1. Then he called for the married woman. Mistake 2. Then he took the married woman. Mistake 3. And now he's trying to set this brother up to go sleep with his wife around the same time so that he can blame the baby on him. But what happens when the baby come out already? Because David was ready. So obviously that is some kind of differentiation, or else there would be no need to mention that he was ready.
You know, the thing that stands out to me here is Uriah's devotion. This man's calling out the ark and Yashral and all the glory of the house of Yashral.
Right.
And it's interesting to me how some people like to behave as though Gentiles aren't allowed to worship Yah. Like they're not allowed to have any zeal for the kingdom of Yah.
Right.
There's Gentiles that know who the children of Yasharal are, and know who Yahweh is, and know who Yahweh's people are, and hold it in such high esteem, sometimes even higher than a lot of bloodline Yasharalites. Right. You know?
Right.
And we have to understand that Yah is the creator of the Yehudim and the Gentile. He just has his order. But right, like as it shows right there, there's going to be Gentiles that have zeal for the house of Yah. Right. And they're looking at us to represent Yah. Because you imagine the type of example you set when a Gentile's looking like these are the children of Yahweh. Like how I felt when I thought the real Jews, the real Yehudim, were the Ashkenaz, or those who moved from Poland and, you know, settled in that stolen land. So I remember at that time when I thought that they were the real Jews, I was like, oh, those are God's chosen people. You know, I had a lot of respect and reverence, like how the scriptures say, like what a wise and understanding nation. You know, I had a reserve in my heart, and then to even though I hadn't observed it, to observe someone who I regarded as these are standard keepers, someone who regard, and seeing them do foul things, it would have just let me down, because this is the house of the undefiled temple of Yahweh. Right. You know, so then I think about that now. What if the world is coming to full knowledge of who the true Yehudim are, who the true scattered diaspora, the lost tribes are, where they went into the Americas and sold their slaves and ships and things of that nature, to know that even when they do come into an understanding of this word, they still behave themselves as a heathen nation. When you have fans, Gentile fans, looking to see us do what's right.
Right. Go ahead, Elder.
I'm glad when you brought that up, because if you look, we see how this play unfolds, because as you can see, this Hittite, basically his name means light of Yah, but still he showed the desire in his heart. He desired Yahweh, he desired the righteousness of Yahweh, and he would not, even if people were eyes on him or eyes not on him, would not do an unrighteous act, because he said, my brothers are out there fighting for the righteousness of Yah, for this kingdom, you know, and I'm not going to come back here and enjoy myself, and my brothers can enjoy themselves when they're out there toiling, you know, doing their job. So, you know, and by him mentioning things of Yah, it's showing his righteous thoughts. So Yahweh is not going to allow this servant, you understand, to play a wrong side in this game. No. What goes for Yehudim first, to the house of Yehudim first, and then to the Gentiles, his main servant has played evil. And he will not allow his servant to get away with that. Right. And so you're not going to dirty Yahweh's hands through your hands, that he's going to say, okay, I'm allowed that. No. Because we read later on, you see how Yahweh did not allow him to get away with that with a child. Because that would allow everybody to believe that Yahweh has respect to person. Yahweh don't roll like that. So that's why I love this story also. And my brother said one of our sad stories. But also I love this story too because Yahweh shows his sovereignty, that he does not have respect to person.
Right.
And you're going to deal with what you did, the sin upon your hands. So you will not allow me to look bad before this rest of this world because of your evil deeds, your bad, your mistakes.
Right.
So I wanted to bring that up so people can start really looking at the story, how sovereign and holy Yahweh is.
You know, absolutely. We've always had people of the other nations that will cleave on to us and to our culture. And to the point where it said we'll have one law for the native and also the stranger. If you're going to dwell amongst us, you got to learn to love the Most High. But what you'll have some people is they'll learn to love the people and cleave on to the people instead of learning to cleave on to the Most High. If you cleave on to the Most High, you're naturally going to cleave on to the people. And you can see here clearly Uriah cleaved on to the Most High because he's talking about all these things that are important to the Most High versus, you know, allegiance just to a certain group of people.
Right.
So with that being said, he has become a son of the Most High. So you're not going to do wickedness to any son of the Most High just because you are a bloodline son of the Most High.
Right.
2 Samuel chapter 11 and verse 22. And David said to Uriah, tarry here today also, and tomorrow.
What verse you at?
Verse 12.
Okay.
And David said to Uriah, tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let you depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that today and the morrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his sovereign, but went not down to his house. And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter saying, set you Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire you from him, that he may be smitten and die.
So that's murder. Yeah. So he's committing spiritual adultery in his mind by looking at a married woman. He's sleeping with the married woman. Then he's lying. Then he's trying to get this guy killed. And then now he's literally premeditating the murder of somebody that is reporting to him.
Right.
Go ahead.
So,
Mm-hmm.
And you know, brother, the atmosphere I get from this story. This is after David had his encounter with Nabal and took his wife, and then after his encounter with Saul and has his daughter. So I think among his soldiers and friends and counterparts, there was like a light air about it. Like, yo, he just smashed. Like, I think there was a light, almost a jesting sort of atmosphere to it. I'm not going to impose that on the scriptures, since the scripture is not necessarily expressive about that. But just among soldiers, y'all are going out to kill. You seeing death, so there's a lot of numbness that does go on.
Right.
There's a lot of things you make jokes about that aren't necessarily supposed to be funny.
Right.
So a situation like this happens, and he sees a girl on the roof. He's able to send messengers to bring her here, and she gets word that she's pregnant. And among his messengers is probably laughing and giggling. And he's like, yo, chill. Don't let Uriah find out. You invite Uriah to the house. All your boys know what's going on.
Right.
They all talking and stuff, and Uriah is sincere in his heart. They probably laughing him to scorn within the conceits of their mind. So he says to Joab, hey man, just put him on the front line, man. We gotta get rid of this guy. And they thought it was all a joke. And then Yah steps in and like, this is not funny. And it's something that echoed throughout the rest of Hebrew history to this same day.
Definitely. That's definitely a possibility. Another point to look at it, another perspective would be the embarrassment of being a righteous king that has now committed adultery, and that not only adultery to his own sister, But you have done that to somebody of another nation. So now you're going to have the people of his nation talking like, oh, you supposed to be better than us. But now y'all doing this.
To serve you.
And you supposed to be doing that. So, you know, I think he was more about saving face. Saving face of the fact that, you know, he has this image of righteousness of Dawid, you know, the king of Yehuda, like you said, and took this wife, and he didn't just take the wife, Yahweh gave it to him.
Yeah.
Because Yahweh took he couldn't touch the woman until, you know, the man died. So, you know, you got all these different things going on, but it's no telling what the mood was. But I'll tell you what, it was a mood of wickedness going on.
Oh, yeah.
We know that. There was no commandments being thought of there. And this is how you can get caught in your own wickedness. Well, if he's dead, then technically, you know,
and they all did mysteriously
I'm a murder. I'm a killer. I'm a soldier. This is war.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if his woman, you know, she got my baby, that's family. So there's a war going on. If he died, he died. You know,
it justified it in his mind.
When you in your flesh and your wickedness, you'll come up with anything.
Man,
anything. Go ahead, El.
I also look at it like this too. People around him know what he did. People around him also know what the law is too. So they don't want to really say anything much because they know trying to prove a thing and trying to indict a king can also get your head cut off your shoulders. But then again, they're also looking at what's going on with Dawid. I'm going to do what he tells me to do because I'm too afraid to go against him.
Right.
But whose wife is in danger of being taken again? Whose man's life is being in danger of dying because he decided to take one of his head guys, his wife, and didn't care about anything, just went to bed with her, impregnated her, and now you bringing the brother back, try to get him to do something righteous but wicked, you understand? And now, since he wouldn't do it because his rights in society was so high, you go and kill a man.
Right.
You plot to kill a man. You understand? So what kind of man are you really?
Right.
I mean, you tainting, you know, the glory that was put upon you, you understand, from the righteousness of Yah. You tainting all the things you've done before.
Right.
And people say, what you've done for me lately? Well, okay, all this righteousness that you did, what have you done lately? Now this is some hardcore wicked stuff here.
Right.
What is the difference between you and a pagan? If you're going to murder one of your heavyweights that can fight hard, give all his life for the battle, give honor to Yahweh, give honor to the king, will not even touch his wife, even when he's drunk. He was holding righteousness.
Right.
And yet you're going to murder this dude. You lower than dirt right now. And your people looking at you, but they don't want to say nothing because they might have some other people that might thought you just cut your head off. Like Nathan had to come and tell me about this stuff later on. He had to find a way to tell me before his head rolled down the throne room floor. So this is the kind of mentality right here. Where was my brother's mind when he was doing this type of thing?
Right.
This is the thing we need to pay a very close attention to. Because all of us can fall into this situation and realize that we're doing wrong, but then again, not pay attention to it. We might even realize we ain't even doing wrong at the time. But just say, well, I'll cover this up because I can do this. I got the power to do this. But what about Yahweh? Oh, he don't see this thing? Where is our mind when we do some foolishness like this?
Right.
Oh, Yahweh's okay with this, right? See, this is the problem we mess up a lot with. Yahweh gonna allow me to do this because, you know, I did all this stuff. This is one of those small mistakes that I'm doing right now. If Yahweh showed me my error in my ways, I tell myself, I'm gonna cry on my floor and forgive me, Father Yahweh, you know, or will I? See, that's the problem. Will you repent when Yahweh show you the error of your ways? You know? That's the heavy points here. I'm gonna let y'all take it now.
Right.
Boy, it never failed. You know, I'm not going to belittle the fact that, you know, Dawid definitely had more understanding and revelation about Yah than any of us in this room. But for some reason, every time I read this story, my heart is just like twisted.
Yeah.
Like twisted.
Because he can fall.
Oh. Yeah, he can fall.
Then who are we? And what, like he slept with a Hittite woman. He slept with a Hebrew woman. Our women that beautiful will cause you to kill yourself, literally. Boy. Go ahead.
Verse. What's that? This is verse 16 actually.
Okay,
this is after he sends Uriah the message. And it came to pass, when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah unto a place where he knew that valiant men were. And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab, and there fell some people of the servants of David, and Uriah the Hittite died also. Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war. And he charged the messenger, saying, when you have made an end of telling the matters of the war unto the king, and if so be that the king's wrath arise, and he say unto you, why approached you so near unto the city when you did fight? Know you not that they would shoot from the wall, who smote Abimelech the son of Yerubbesheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of millstone upon him from the wall, that he died in Thebez? Why went you near the wall? Then say you, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. So the messenger went and came and showed David all that Joab had sent him for. And the messenger said unto David, surely the men prevailed against us, and came out unto us into the field, and we were upon them even unto the entering of the gate, and the shooters shot from off the wall upon your servants, and some of the king's servants be dead, and your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Then David said unto the messenger, thus shall you say unto Joab, let not this thing displease you, for the sword devours one as well as another. Make your battle more strong against the city, and overthrow it, and encourage you him. And when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when the mourning was past, David sent and fetched her to his house, and she became his wife, and bare him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased Yahweh.
All right, so let's go to chapter 12.
This is hard to read, man.
It's hard because we reverence David.
Yeah.
So to hear that anybody would do this, this is like some Yehudis Iscariot type stuff going on here. But this is very humbling, because no matter how great you think you are or how good you think you walking in this word, you ain't touching David. But David did this. So that just lets you know you got to always remain humble and never let your sight off these words. Go ahead.
Brother, one thing on that. There's one thing I want to say that people need to think about too, because I thought about this. I still think about it. Why did y'all allow this? Because he knew what was happening anyway. But yet, if his servant David got that high, you got to fall down now. You got to stay humble. When you think you that high, that powerful, that you can do such a thing, when you knew that Yahweh had anointed you from a young age, so your head got that big, bro. So Yahweh got to take you down a peg. But some people might say, well, why that brother got to die? Yahweh kills who he want to kill.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that that brother might not make it into the kingdom, because he showed everyone and the king that he was in a higher state of holiness than he was. He reverenced Yahweh, and he wouldn't even go touch his wife. He barely wanted to eat with the king and drink. He didn't go home to his house. He slept with the servants. He did what a servant did. He showed, his respect toward the Most High and his king and his country.
Mm-hmm.
So he did more than the king did. His state of mind and state of spirituality was high. So when he went, he died. I would say that boy had a pure heart when he went down there to do what he had to do. And he was murdered. Yahweh allowed that. But absence of the pride is present with Yah, they see in Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very possible that brother there will enter the kingdom because of his righteous words and righteous deeds. Even before, like I said, put it against David at the time. So that is my understanding. Every time I think about that, Yahweh will do what Yahweh say He's gonna do. I'm not gonna judge Yahweh, knowing that I can, but I can see by the man and which that man's mentality was as his words came out of his mouth. He showed righteousness. His actions showed righteousness. So I give him, his props for that. And it's our brother that got blood on his hands. He has to answer to Yahweh. He has to pay a price for that. That has to humble him because he's supposed to be a king and be an ambassador toward Yahweh, toward everybody that see him on the throne. All nations that see him on the throne. So that's what I think about that, my brother Dawid. He's going to pay a hard price for this.
And then we have to also understand, we don't really know too much about Uriah. All we know is him from this story. So we don't know what he did before all this.
No, we don't.
But it also says that, the day that a wicked man repents and becomes righteous, his sins is forgiven for him. So this could have been mercy on Yah's side, allowing Uriah to be leaving in a state of righteousness.
That's right.
So Yah knows what he's doing, and he every man reaps what he sows. So we don't know the whole history in Uriah, but we know when he was killed in righteousness. So we don't have to worry about what Uriah, how he died, because he died in righteousness. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And Dawid's house was plagued for the rest of his life because of this.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of his life.
And, you can sit here and say, well, Dawid did this. All I did was this. If he forgave Dawid, what about me? Well, you ain't fighting Yahweh's battles. Yeah, you ain't the king of Yasharal. You don't gamble with your salvation in hopes that you might be that important to Yahweh. That you might, that you're going to do that many good deeds for this nation in your lifetime that he's just going to give you that kind of pass.
Yahweh will give me his lives for us.
Or just take away our own.
Exactly.
Verse.
We're at chapter 12.
Okay.
2 Samuel chapter 12, and we're at verse 1.
And Yahweh sent Nathan unto Dawid, and he came unto him and said unto him, there were 2 men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, and it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd, to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb, and dressed it for the man that was come to him. And Dawid's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, as Yahweh lives, the man that has done this thing shall surely die.
All right. So, because first of all, that's not death penalty for stealing. But when you are in your own wickedness and you're caught up in your own haughtiness, when somebody else commits a transgression, you want to overcorrect the situation by prescribing some kind of heavy penalty on other people for doing things that are so-called wicked to compensate for the wickedness that you got going on in your own life. And this is what the scribes and Pharisees were doing. This is why they were like, oh, lash this person and this, that, and making heavy burdens on people because they knew they weren't right in their own lives. So we have to watch that in our own behavior as well when we deal with people that are in transgression. Watch how we deal with them and watch how we prescribe judgment on them, because you never know that Yahweh is showing you your own sin through somebody else or through a story about somebody else.
Brother, one thing on that too.
Go ahead.
There's one thing we talk about we have to be careful what comes out of our mouth. Life and death is in the tongue. Mm-hmm. We already read about, 2 other brothers in here that opened their mouth up. One, I can't remember his name right now, but he said, whoever walks out of my house, whatever, animal or something like that, when he comes home from a battle, something like that, he's going to sacrifice and wind up being his daughter. And then the other one was Yaakov. He opened his mouth up and talked about, to Laban, if you find, your idol here, whoever who is taking it shall die. And that happened to be Rachel, his wife. So, and she wound up dying after she gave birth to the second child. So we have to be careful about, what comes out of our mouth.
Right.
So I want to bring that point up because it's going to be coming down soon about that same piece of business.
Right. A woman can say some foolishness, and the husband or the father can override it, according to by Midmar chapter 30, Numbers chapter 30. But when a man says something, that's established, that's ordained. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Go back at verse 5. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, as Yahweh lives, the man that has done this thing shall surely die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said to David, you are the man. Thus says Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal, I anointed you king over Yasharal, and I delivered you out of the hand of Saul. And I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom, and gave you the house of Yasharal and of Yehuda. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto you such and such things. Why have you despised the commandment of Yahweh to do evil in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and have taken his wife to be your wife, and have slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife.
So now the sword shall never depart from his house. So he is cursing his children now, because his children are now going to have to deal with his own iniquity. Go ahead.
Thus says Yahweh, behold, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them unto your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of this son. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Yasharal and before the sun. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against Yahweh. And Nathan said unto David, Yahweh also has put away your sin. You shall not die. Howbeit, because by this deed you have given great occasion to the enemies of Yahweh to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto you shall surely die.
So now he has caused death on his own child. He's caused even further pain on Bathsheba, a woman who had her husband die, and now she's about to lose her child. And Yahweh is saying, because you have caused the enemies of Yahweh to blaspheme because of what you did. So this is how you take Yahweh's name in vain. When you cause the nations to blaspheme Yah, because he said, this is Yah's children, that's his people, this supposed to be a holy nation. Look at this foolishness they doing. That ain't no kind of righteousness. Go ahead.
Brother, I just wanted to bring up that, you hit a chord right there about us blaspheming. They do say that in Romans chapter 2, verse 24. For the name of Elohim is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written. So, and that's also in Isaiah 52:5 also. Now therefore, whatever I hear, said Yahweh, that my people is taken away for naught. They that rule over them, make them to howl, which is wail, said Yahweh, and my name continually every day is blasphemed. Therefore my people shall know my name, therefore they shall know in that day that I am that does speak, behold, it is I. So basically this makes reference, all through scripture, Isaiah, 52 and 49, 65. It makes serious information talking about how we transgress the law. So we have to learn not to make light of Yahweh's laws and not transgress, because all it does is become a domino effect. How it not just hurt ourselves, we hurt many other people, some that we know and some that I've never seen yet. You know, because they see us, they see the spirit that's on us, think, you know, we transgress. They're like, what kind of man is that?
Right.
What kind of person is that? Who am I supposed to believe? You know, so we can injure, you know, people who don't even see us yet.
Right. Right. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 15. And Nathan departed unto his house, and Yahweh struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto Dawid, and it was very sick.
And just look at Nathan. Look at the job of Nathan. They sing a song about this guy. You know, he kills tens of thousands. And you got to be the one to go up to that king who's obviously in his wickedness at this point and tell him, the sword is never going to leave your house. Your child going to die. You did this. And Dawid like, well, how many people know this? Well, how you know this? You know, obviously trying to keep this thing a secret. That's terrifying. Yeah. You know, praise Yah, Dawid was able to snap out of it and repent.
Yes.
But this is the job of somebody that's going to speak Yah's word. He's putting his life in Yahweh's hand to go here and tell this thing to the king. So you have all these prophets and all these brothers that risk their life to tell the truth to somebody so that they have an opportunity to live. Then who are we to be afraid to tell people the truth because we don't want people not to like us? Ain't nobody trying to kill us for telling them the truth. We just want to be cool with everybody. We just want to be accepted with everybody. We just want to, you know, continue to get promotions and be popular with people and do all these different things when our forefathers and our prophets, our brethren, the prophets, had to risk their lives daily so that we could have a chance to live. Go ahead.
You know, the thing that sticks out as well is that parable that Nathan gave Dawid, saying, you had no pity, you know, and being that it is a parallel to what he did in real life. So we can kind of get some insight as to what was going on, Dawid, like what was that about?
Right.
You know, and then when you link it to how Dawid responded in chapter 11, when Uriah's servant came and he's like,
die.
Let not this thing displease you. The sword devours one against another. Just make the battle strong and, you know, encourage him. And it's like, bro, you sent Joab with a suicide mission to kill Uriah, and then your servants die in the midst of it. So it's people that you're close to. Folks die. People not coming home.
Yeah, not just Uriah. Other people are dying.
And you harden your heart against that whole thing for the sake of keeping this woman
saving face.
His eyes were super blinded at that point.
Oh,
you know,
he was blind, bro.
His eyes were super blinded at that point, and
y'all ain't gonna deal with him that way, surely, because he got a job to do. But somebody can die.
Right.
Ain't nobody name on us, please.
Right.
So, yeah, he definitely hardened his heart against sure judgment at this time, and I'm sure Yahweh was extremely displeased.
Right. Verse 16.
Dawid therefore besought Elohim for the child, and Dawid fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of Dawid feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, behold, while the child was yet alive, we spoke unto him, and he would not hearken to our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead?
So now this is the normal Dawid now, a caring Dawid. You know, somebody that doesn't want, you know, somebody else to suffer for his deeds. But where was that care when he's trying to tell the man to go sleep with his wife? So that the man could be believing that this is his child. But when the child come out looking like a Hittite, you know, then it's like, wait a minute. Well, not a Hittite, excuse me. When the child come out looking like a pure Israelite, you know, when instead of looking like a Hittite of the seed of Ham, now you got a child growing up, you know, possibly finding out later that, wait a minute, you're not my dad. He didn't have no care for that child. But see, that's how he was so blinded by the wickedness and the lust of his flesh that he wasn't able to consider these things that are affecting other people, like a woman that got to keep a secret, like that's not your father, this is your father.
That's pretty heavy.
You know, so, but now you see the quick opposite. Yahweh said this child finna die. But yet Dawid is still concerning himself, afflicting himself, praying and doing all these things for care for this child. So you see the contrast between a Dawid and a sinful Dawid. Go ahead.
Verse 19. But when Dawid saw that his servants whispered, Dawid perceived that the child was dead. Therefore Dawid said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. Then Dawid arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of Yahweh and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that you have done? You did fast and weep for the child while it was alive. But when the child was dead, you did rise and eat bread? He said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, Who can tell whether Yahweh will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me.
Okay. So he knows that child is going in the grave. And he knows that he has to eventually go to the grave. He's not thinking that he's going to go to heaven. You know, the child going to get ready to get buried. And then also with this story right here, why did this child die? Did the child do something wrong?
No.
Did the child sin?
No.
The child was innocent. But the child died because of who?
His father.
Because of what his father did. But these people that don't believe in the whole book were quick to tell you, the son can't die for the father. You have to die for your own stuff. No, you can't lawfully be put to death by death penalty for the deed that your father did or for the deed that your son did. Oh, but you can suffer because of the deeds of what your children do or what your father did. You can suffer for that. Go ahead. Are we not suffering because of the deeds of what our forefathers did?
Yep.
Go ahead.
24. And Dawid comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her, and she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon, Shlomo. And Yahweh loved him. And he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he called his name Jedediah, because of Yahweh.
All right, so Shlomo's name was Jedediah. So he had two names. Go ahead.
And Joab fought against Rabbah of the children of Ammon and took the royal city. And Joab sent messengers to Dawid and said, I have fought against Rabbah and have taken the city of waters. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together and encamp against the city and take it, lest I take the city and it be called after my name. So there's like a lighthearted jesting going on. Like, yeah, we're going to win. We got this. And Dawid gathered all the people together and went to Rabbah and fought against it and took it. And he took their king's crown from off his head. The weight thereof was a talent of gold with the precious stones, and it was set on Dawid's head. And he brought forth the spoil of the city in great abundance. And he brought forth the people that were therein and put them under saws and under harrows of iron and under axes of iron, and made them pass through the brick kiln. And thus did he unto all the cities of the children of Ammon. So Dawid and all the people returned unto Jerusalem.
All right. Let's go to 1 Kepha chapter 1. So all of this could have been avoided by one simple thing, just avoiding the lust, resisting the temptation. But even before that, go do what you're supposed to do. If he would have been at war, he'd have never saw this woman. He wouldn't have had to resist nothing.
Man, I never feel good anytime I finish reading that story.
No.
Never. It like take a while to just wear off. I don't know if it's a spiritual thing or what. I just be feeling
It's heavy.
Never stops.
It's definitely very heavy. First Peter, chapter 1.
Chapter 1. First Kepha, chapter 1 and verse 1. Kepha, an apostle of Yahshua HaMashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of Yahweh, the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit, unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahshua Mashiach. Grace unto you and peace be multiplied. Blessed be the Elohim and Father of our Master Yahshua Mashiach, which according to his abundant mercy has begotten us again unto a lively hope by the resurrection of Yahshua Mashiach from the dead, to an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled, and that fades not away, reserved in heaven for you, who are kept by the power of Elohim through faith unto salvation, ready to be revealed in the last time, wherein you greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, you are in heaviness through manifold temptations, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Yahshua Mashiach, whom having not seen you love, in whom though now you see him not, yet believing you rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of glory, receiving the end of your faith, even the salvation of your souls, of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently, who prophesied of the grace that should come unto you. I feel he's doing a better job talking about this than Paul. Searching what manner of time the spirit of Mashiach which was in them did signify, when it testified beforehand the sufferings of Mashiach and the glory that should follow, unto whom it was revealed that not unto themselves, but unto us did they minister the things which are now reported unto you by them that have preached the good news unto you with the Holy Spirit, the Ruach Kadesh, sent down from heaven, which things the angels desire to look into. Wherefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Yahshua Mashiach. As obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lusts in your ignorance, but as he which has called you is holy, so be you holy in all manner of conversation
and behavior. So as obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lusts in your ignorance. So now you know better. You can't be falling all the time to the same things that you did when you were ignorant. Go ahead.
Because it is written, be you holy, for I am holy.
In other words, okay, you were eating all this matter of unclean foods and all this stuff, and you thought it was okay. But now that you know that this is unclean to the Most High, then if Yah says, I am holy, you be holy, then now that you have a conscience towards this, you should want to be holy as well. Go ahead.
Verse 17. And if you call on the Father, who without respect of persons judges according to every man's work, past time of your sojourning here in fear, for as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold, from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who by him do believe in Elohim, that raised him up from the dead and gave him glory, that your faith and hope might be in Elohim. Seeing you have purified your souls in obeying the truth through the Spirit unto unfeigned love of brethren, see that you love one another with a pure heart fervently, being born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible, by the word of Yahweh, which lives and abides forever. For all flesh is as grass, and all the glory of man as the flower of grass. The grass withers, and the flower thereof fades away, falls away, but the word of Yahweh endures forever. And this is the word which by the good news is preached unto you.
All right, let's go a few more chapters. Let's go to chapter 5. First key for 1 Peter chapter 5. First Peter chapter 5, and we're going to start this at verse 1.
The elders which are among you, I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Mashiach, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of Elohim which is among you, taking oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being masters over Yahweh's heritage, but being examples to the flock.
Okay. Go ahead.
Being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, you shall receive a crown of glory that fades not away. Likewise, you younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For Elohim resists the proud, and gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of Elohim, that he may exalt you in due time.
So these are further instructions to go along with what Dawid was saying about presumptuous sins. If you stay in this humility, if you esteem the elder, if you carry yourself in a manner that allows Yahweh to exalt you, then you can help avoid presumptuous sin, sin that's done through arrogance, lack of humility, being proud, lack of being humble. Go ahead. Verse 7.
Verse 7. Casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you.
So if you cast all your care upon Yah, then you can also avoid that sin. Well, I got to do this. I got to take things in my own hand. I know that this is transgression, but if I don't do this, I'm not going to eat. If I don't do this, I'm not going to make this money. I'm not going to be able to pay for this or pay for that. But if you cast your cares upon the Most High and trust him and say, I'm going to trust these commandments more than I trust my own deeds, it will be well with you. But the problem is we're not willing to suffer some loss in order for that to be proven to us. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about seeking whom he may devour.
So we have to understand that our enemy is walking around looking to cause us to fall. So that means we have to be sober and vigilant. And when it means be sober, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't drink some wine. No, be sober mentally. Don't be drunken with these other doctrines. Don't be drunken with your pride. Don't be drunken with lust of the flesh, lust towards women, because Dawid wasn't sober. When you look at a woman and you like, oh man, you drunken with the lust of the flesh. When you stumbling, now you stumbling all over the place in the dark, lying, stealing, killing, lack of compassion for another human being. All these different things. You can't do this. When you carry yourself in that state, it's just a matter of time for the devil to show up like, here she go. Here he go.
Now tell the other side, to get that, he was drunk with wine. And he didn't go through the lust of the flesh.
That's different, right? So, it wasn't. Then that was a great point. Elaborate that on that, elder. That was a great point.
On the other hand, look at the Hittite. He was drunk on wine, And I know many people will look at that statement right there and only assimilate that with alcohol, wine, or today, other drugs and so forth. You know, when they do hallucinated drugs where you cannot be yourself. But yet this brother was drunk. He made sure he was drunk and tried to send him home. That brother did not go home. He stayed the course. He stayed on point. He realized, no, I might be drunk and all, but I'm not going to make it worse by going against my word, which I said, if my brothers who's on the battlefield could enjoy their home and their wives, then I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay straight for my brothers. And he also stayed straight for Yah.
Right.
Because he kept exalting Yahweh. You know what I mean? So, you know, he stuck with the servants.
Right.
You know, and then later on, as a servant who served the kingdom, he was sent out in the house of battle to die, to be murdered. Right. You know, so you got to look at that, brothers and sisters. We all have to understand, you know, when you read these scriptures, you know, look at the spirit part of this scripture, not just the secular part of it.
Right, right. And whereas Uriah may have been drunk as far as his coordination, you know, stumbling or whatever, or he might not have been as sharp in his mind, but he was still sober thinking when it came to his values and his morals and his decision making. So what's more important? You know, being completely sober in your physical body where you can walk a straight line and recite anything, but being drunk in your mind state when it comes to decision making. And when you're caught up in the flesh, you don't need no alcohol to have you drunk in your mind state.
You know, brother, that's a good point you brought up about that, the drunkenness of the mind, because we live in a society now that's trying its best to pervert all truth. I mean, they will come on the TV and blatantly tell you girls are boys. Right. And boys are, and with a straight face. And you're like, huh? Yeah. And then if you speak out against it, you're automatically demonized. So you start taking precautions about doing what's right. Right. That's like thinking twice before you.
That's making good bad and bad good. You're supposed to take precaution with doing wickedness. That's not with doing goodness.
It's something to that extent. Right. But the way they're doing it now, it's like it will make you even think twice about taking a breath in. Like you're like, should I hold my breath? Your lungs is burning, but you're like, no, if I breathe in and do the right thing for my own self, I'm going to be demonized. Right. So they're perverting truth in all aspects of life.
That's what you said before, brother. Good is bad, bad is good.
Right. They're perverting truth in all aspects of life. But we have to make sure that we combat those things that are trying to invade our environment, because if you just sit in it too long, it'll be like soaking an egg in vinegar. Once it's soaked for some amount of time, it's almost impossible for you to get the taste of vinegar out of the egg. Right. It's gonna be defiled for the remainder of its existence.
Right. And there's a balance to that. You know, on my side, I tend to lean the other way around, not caring what this person thinks. When I was wicked or when I was in righteousness, I didn't care what somebody thinks. But there's a time when you need to be a little bit more tactful in how you speak to people and how you deal with people and how people are observing you, especially when they're little children. You can cause somebody to stumble into something before they even get a chance to walk. But on the other side, certain people have the type of personalities where they naturally are passive, you know, where they don't want to offend somebody. So they're like, you know, like some Christians, they're afraid to say anything because they're like, well, I don't want somebody to be offended. Well, what if the offense, this person, the opportunity reward is this person is not offended, but then they hurt themselves. Or this person is offended, but then yet they have an opportunity to not hurt themselves. So we have to weigh those things and say, okay, make sure it's not my flesh getting in the way as far as, you know, I'm going to cause this person to stumble because, yeah, where I'm saying something, it may be correct, but the spirit that I'm delivering them is, and I don't care about their feelings, versus a spirit of, well, I need to tell them this, but I don't want to hurt their feelings. You have to decide, well, what's the weightier matter?
I'll add to that.
Go ahead, Elder.
What I want to add to that is what you said just a minute before you expounded on that point. Look at it like this. I call it heavyweights. You know, even Saul and Samuel, when they was going to die, they made sure they went around and asked anyone, you know, that they had dealings with, did I injure you, or did I steal from you, or did I did anything to go against the law? Why? Yes, they want their salvation, but also you may have forgotten somebody that you accidentally stepped on, or just stumbled over and injured, not knowing that, yeah, you injured that person. But if they recount their steps, they might run into that person and say, well, look, I know I said something wrong to you. I dismissed you accidentally, or something was in my mind, you know, and I didn't mean to hurt you. You are being kind to the children. You are showing them another side, the side that Yahweh wants you to show. Because you're being very careful, not just for yourself right now, because your job is to make sure you didn't injure anyone, so you might have a chance to enter that kingdom. You don't have your garment spotted. But also, it's also doing something for the people that you're talking to. You're showing them how you're supposed to represent yourself. You're showing them how you're supposed to have honor toward the Most High, to Him and to the children that He's created. You know, so you don't just step on people to get what you want to get. And then you're acting like a Pharisee. You know, and we're supposed to supersede the righteousness of a Pharisee.
Right.
So it tells you, some people out there are talking about, well, you know, like Dawid said when he's prayers, you know, you only have I sinned against. You understand? But they don't realize he's praying to the Most High. Because yes, you did sin against the Most High. When you injured that child over there, you sinned against the Most High.
Right.
When you're supposed to have known better. But after you went your prayer to the Most High, and you repented to the Most High, did you go to that child over there? If they're still alive, did you go to that child over there? Still, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, lady. You know, I'm sorry, little child. I didn't mean to do that. Forgive me. You didn't rectify with that person. So that person right there, man, for injured heart still today, because you didn't bother to go and tell them, please forgive me. I made a mistake. Whether they forgive you or not, you're still doing what Yahweh says. Do it with the right heart. Don't do it murmuringly or grudgingly. Because Yahweh knows your action of your ways. This is what he's talking about. We're supposed to become humble. How are we going to be like Yahweh? He said, be holy, if we're not acting like we're supposed to be holy before Yahweh.
Right.
So we're not taking it serious enough. We're not looking at the man in the mirror, or them days, man in the water, reflection of who that man really is. Look at the man that Yahweh said, I'm not approving of. I'm displeased with. See the area of your ways. Like Dawid finally understood when he was told to invite Nathan. And Nathan really spoke with Yahweh's voice, because he came to do a job. He immediately realized the error of his ways and repented. How long does it take us to repent when we realize we've done wrong? This is the thing the lesson is trying to make us realize. Repent. Know that you've done wrong. Be sorry for what you just did. Like my brother was speaking about that ewe lamb. We had another class on that too. About the ewe lamb, as they explained, it was very in depth. How you take care of that ewe lamb as a daughter, feeding, washing it, loving it. As a child that a woman birthed a child to you. So that day comes that your sins have to roll over when the priest comes to cut the throat of that lamb. Because you sinned, so that baby lamb got to die for you. You're supposed to feel remorseful for that, painful, you know, in your heart, because that lamb has to die for your sins, because you wicked. That lamb did nothing. The baby had to die for his wicked sins. Baby didn't do nothing. This is how we're supposed to show our repentance in the heart toward Yahweh, to know that we are his children.
Right. Go ahead and finish that up.
This is verse 9. Whom resist steadfast in the faith.
Go back to verse 8. Read that again.
Be sober.
We're at 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8.
Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil as a roaring lion walks about seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world.
And this is also why the Mashiach had to come in flesh. He had to come and be a person just like us to show us that, yeah, you can resist the adversary, the devil. You can overcome this flesh by just keeping the commandments. Go ahead.
But brethren,
10.
But the Elohim of all grace, who has called us unto his eternal glory by Messiah Yeshua. After that you have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you. To whom be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. By Silvanus, a faithful brother unto you, as I suppose I have written briefly, exhorting and testifying that this is the true grace of Elohim wherein you stand. The assembly that is at Babylon, elected together with you, salutes you, and so does Marcus, my son. Greet you one another with a kiss of charity. Peace be with you all that are in Mashiach Yeshua. Amen.
All right. But verse 10, but the Elohim of all grace, who have called us unto his eternal glory by Yeshua HaMashiach, after that you have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you. You're going to have to suffer this flesh. You're going to have to suffer through it. When you commit a transgression, and a good point that Elder brought up is like, okay, you go before Yah and say, against you, Yah alone, have I sinned. Yeah, you have sinned. Well, how do you fix that? You have to repent. How do you fix that, the sin that you've done against the Most High? You got to restore. You got to do what Most High said do. Repent, restore, confess, and do your best to not do it again. So you're going to have to suffer a little while. If you just leave it at that sin, you done lost that battle. You gave up on that fight. And this is an endurance process that we are going to have to suffer through for a while. We're going to have to suffer our own wickedness that we have in this flesh for a while until the Mashiach makes us perfect, establishes, strengthens us, and settles us through Yah. Let's go to 2 Kepha chapter 2. 2 Peter chapter 2. It's a few more chapters down. And they're dealing a lot with the Gentiles and the Goyim, and as well as the northern tribes that were scattered, that had completely stopped living as Israelites and pretty much became Gentiles. They're dealing with the Hellenist people that were hiding that they were Israelites to fit in with the Greeks for monetary gain, because Greece was a trading place. This is where they don't really produce anything, but they trade a lot with different places. So you had different reasons why people were living as Gentiles. But these same things that they're going through are the same things that we have to go through, because we pretty much grew up the same way as Gentiles, being in a country that's not ours, learning the ways of this land, and not having a conscience towards a lot of this wickedness. And now that it's established to us, how do we strengthen ourselves to fight through these things when we've been taught that, okay, yeah, these things might be wrong, but Jesus died so you can do it. Just put money in the plate and don't do something that's going to put you in jail. So these are some real good writings to go over. 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 1.
But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in destructive heresies, even denying the master that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingers not, and their condemnation slumbers not. For if Elohim spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down into Tartarus, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the wicked, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an example unto those that after should live sinfully.
Now, this is how we should have been preaching. This is the new assembly that he's preaching to. So this is how we supposed to be preaching that, this the same Elohim that through the third of the angels that are leaving their state, many of them he's already reserved into darkness. And then he didn't spare the old world. Noah was the 8th person. He killed everybody in the world and started it over with 8 people.
That's right.
You know, and talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, if he killed a whole city because of faggotry, what makes you think that all of a sudden he gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna paint a rainbow and everything is all right"? That ain't cool. Now,
It's foul.
it may be a rough word that I use, but at the end of the day, it's wickedness. Anything that's transgression against Yah. And the things we have to really, really worry about is anything that comes with a death penalty. If it comes with a death penalty to the point where when we were actually keeping the law, he would say that we would have to enact judgment on that. Those aren't the things that he's going to say, okay, it's okay now because he's a good person. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. For that righteous man dwelling among them in seeing and hearing vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. Yahweh knows how to deliver the pious out of temptations and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished.
So Yahweh knows how to deliver the righteous out of temptation and how to reserve the unjust until the day of judgment to be punished. So just because we see other people doing wickedness and getting away with it, they're not going to get away with it. He knows how to reserve them for their time of judgment, but he also knows how to lead a righteous man out of wickedness when he has caught himself in the wrong way, or how to help him out of temptations. And he'll give us little things. There's times that every one of us can think of a certain time when you had your mind set on doing something wicked. And you were like, I'm going to do this, knowing that it's wrong. And some kind of way, something go wrong to prevent you from doing it. Now, you could have done it if you really put your mind to it and kept pressing through. But a lot of times we were wise enough to say, oh, wait a minute. No. I need to stop this. You see? All the signs have shown me I shouldn't be doing this. But when we get to the point where we're so caught up in the flesh that, hey, I'm going to do it anyways, that's when you can be reserving yourself for judgment. Go ahead.
Verse 10. But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness and despise government, presumptuous are they, self-willed, they are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. Whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, bring not railing accusation against them before Yahweh. But these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption.
Now, these natural brute beasts, it goes further into Revelation where it talks about the blood going all the way up to the bridle of a horse. You got a choice. You can be the people that are going to be cleansed by the blood of the sinner when the earth is cleansed, or you can be the beast that's going to be sacrificed in order to cleanse the earth. We have a choice. The Most High gave us free will to decide, okay, you can't take back the fact you did something in your ignorance. But once you know better, you have free will choice to say, I'm not that person that did that ignorance in the past. I'm going to fight harder. And if I fall, I'm going to get back up and keep fighting until the end. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And shall receive the reward of unrighteousness as they count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. Spots they are and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings while they feast with you, having eyes full of adultery that cannot cease from sin, beguiling unstable souls, a heart they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children, which have forsaken the right way and are gone astray, following the way of Balaam son of Beor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness, but was rebuked for his iniquity. The dumb donkey, speaking with man's voice, forbade the madness of the prophet. These are wells without water, clouds that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever. For when they speak Great swelling words of vanity, they are lure through the lusts of the flesh, through much wantonness. Those who were clean escaped from them who live in error. While they promise them liberty, they themselves are servants of corruption. For of whom a man is overcome, of the same he is brought in bondage. For if after they have escaped the pollution of the world through the knowledge of the Master and Savior Yahshua Mashiach, they are again entangled therein and overcome, the latter end is worse with them than the beginning.
It's worse because you did this in ignorance at first and didn't know any better. The Most High exposed himself to you, showed you himself and showed you his salvation through his son, his word. And then you took that for granted and cast that to the side in order to feed the lust of the flesh. The state of you in the end is going to be worse than the beginning. You are better off to never have known Yah to begin with. Go ahead.
Verse 21. For it had been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than after they have known it to turn from the holy commandment delivered unto them. But it has happened unto them according to the true proverb, the dog is turned to his own vomit again, and the soul that was washed to her wallowing in mire.
So it goes back to the whole statement of those, that have less will be beaten with few stripes. But those that are given more are going to be beaten with many stripes. So once you have been given this truth and your eyes have been opened, you've been given eyes to see and ears to hear, and you decide, well, I'm still going to allow this flesh to control me, even though I have now been given this Holy Spirit. It'd have been better off for you never have to known Yahweh to begin with. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10.
Yeah, I see there wasn't any hesitation to condemn foul behavior in these scriptures.
Nope.
And by these apostles.
Nope.
Clouds without rain, rooted up twice dead. Like, it is what it is. It's disgusting. It's vile.
Nobody in here is looking for votes. Ain't nobody writing in this book looking for likes.
Nope.
Ain't nobody in here trying to be popular. Ain't nobody none of these servants in here is trying to get invites to the parties. These people are telling folks the stuff that they don't want to hear for the best interest of the person. And this is how we have to always remain. Now, they got a little rough in here. But again, Jude talks about it. Sometimes it requires you to snatch somebody from out the fire. Other times it doesn't, and you'll see what people will say, well, I will lure her comfortably into the wilderness and speak softly unto her. There's a time and place for these things. But indeed, no matter how rough I talk to you or any other servant talk to you, trust me, it's 100 times better than Yahweh pleading with you. Because when Yahweh plead with you, folks dying. It ain't when I plead with you. You can say, hey, throw me a middle finger or throw a punch at me if you like. If you don't like what I have to say, you ain't going to do nothing to Yahweh. 1 Corinthians chapter 10.
Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud and were all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moshe in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Mashiach.
All right, so there's the jewel that we've talked about in very good amount of the classes, that, the Mashiach was there with us in the wilderness. Go ahead.
But with many of them, Yahweh was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted.
So these people were overthrown for lust. Overthrown in the wilderness for lust. And many of these people were Israelites. There was a mixed multitude. There were some Arabs there, mixed in there as well. But at the end of the day, bloodline didn't save these people once they were freed from bondage and allowed them to enter into the new land. The same way our bloodline is not going to guarantee anything from us when we are freed out of this bondage and guarantee us into the land. If we don't leave the lust and the mind frame, the old mind of living like these Gentiles live, we are not going to fare any better than these forefathers that died in the wilderness, which was everybody over the age of 20, except for 2 people, Caleb and Yahshua. Yahshua, the son of Nun. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. Neither be you idolaters, as were some of them. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in one day 23,000. Neither let us tempt Mashiach, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of serpents. Neither murmur you, as some of them also murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer. Now all these things happened unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come.
And did not elders say that earlier? I will give men's lives for you. So you have a choice to accept these sacrifices that were made for you as examples for you to walk and to learn how to avoid allowing the flesh and the lust of the flesh to cause you to fall. Or you can allow yourself to be an example for another righteous brother that's going to look at your situation and say, man, I don't want that to happen to me. Let me tighten up. Go ahead.
Verse 12. Wherefore, let him that thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. There has no temptation taking you, but such as is common to man. But Elohim is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will, with the temptation, also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it.
So he didn't say he's going to take away all this temptation and all this lust and all these things that can cause, and these stumbling blocks. He didn't say that. He just said he's going to give you a way. And we always have that way, because that way is repentance. That way is to keep the commandments. That way is to listen to wise counsel, to remember the shortcomings of your ancestors. And then a real good jewel in there is, wherefore let, in verse 12, wherefore let him that think he stands take heed, at least he fall. Soon as you think that you standing up tall and you upright and all that, take heed. Because you just one step to the left away from falling. Go ahead. All of us.
Verse 14.
Look at Dawid. Another perfect example. I'm sure he thought he was standing tall. And by right, he should feel that way after all the good things that he's done and how close he was to the Most High. But he didn't take heed.
Brother, it just makes it more real about the realities of human nature. You know, when you're lifted up, you're susceptible to falling into pride. You're susceptible to falling into temptations of seeing yourself higher than you're supposed to, or not paying more attention to your way. Right. And this just makes a differentiation between what the Spirit does in spiritual and spiritually appointed Mashiachs. Right. As far as theologically and scripturally, there's going to be a differentiation between the one sent for atonement and one's just meant to deliver you from regular bondages. Yeah, they're all working with the same spirit, but there's going to be a definite differentiation between Son of Yah,
sinners, which all men are sinners, and perfectly crafted vessels to be a perfect example for us. We can never be the perfect example because we sinned from the get-go, but we were created in sin.
Indeed. Verse 14. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. I speak as to wise men. Judge you what I say. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Mashiach? The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Mashiach? For we, being many, are one bread and one body, for we are all partakers of that one bread. Behold, Yasharal after the flesh, Are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar? What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to Elohim. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. You cannot drink the cup of the master and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of the master's table and of the table of devils. Do we provoke the master to jealousy? Are we stronger than he?
And this is why you can't yoke yourself to these pagan practices. You can't say you are a servant of the Most High, but you still doing the same pagan practices that these other nations, using the same pagan names, using the same pagan ways of worship. When clearly our culture opens our hands to pray, you still praying in a pyramid. You still doing all the things that the other, you still keeping these so-called holy days that are unholy. You cannot take fire in your bosom and not be burnt. Go ahead.
Verse 23. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. Let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth.
All right. And to justify that and clarify that, all things are lawful for him, but all things are not expedient. Because in his mind, he's doing things according to the law, the spirit of the law. So certain things he not going to do, period. Because that's not what he's going to do. And that's a real deep statement. That's not saying he can do whatever he wants and it's lawful.
Nope.
But all things are lawful for him. Because the things that he's seeking to do are according to the law. But just because it's according to the law does not mean it is expedient. It is lawful to have multiple wives. That don't mean that that's expedient for you. That ain't for everybody, especially if you struggling having one wife. Go ahead.
Whatsoever is sold in the shambles that eat, asking no question for conscience sake. For the earth is Yahweh's and the fullness thereof. If any of them that believe not bid you to a feast, and you be disposed to go, whatsoever is set before you, eat, asking no question for conscience sake. But if any man say unto you,
hold on, finish the verses.
But if any man say unto you, this is offered in sacrifice unto idols, eat not, for his sake that showed it, and for conscience sake, for the earth is Yahweh's and the fullness thereof.
All right. So if you're invited somewhere, if you know that this is a pagan practice feast day for a pagan festival, you can't go there and eat that stuff. You know that this stuff is being offered. But if somebody invites you to the house and it's just a normal feast that you go to and you're at that place and they set food before you, you don't have to inquire, did you pray to Jesus on this? Did you, did you pray to Lord, to Baal for this? You ain't got to ask that. But if they sit up there and stand in front of you and pray this prayer, dedicating this food to some idol, or they praying to some man that they call the Messiah that's not the Mashiach, and then turn around and give you that plate, your conscience isn't clear. But what they do behind closed doors, as long as reasonable to your understanding of what you can see, that it's clean food and they're not doing no pagan ritual, you fine. So you don't have to be over righteous with things. It don't matter what the scenario is. You can't eat no pork chop.
There you go.
Don't matter if they pray to Yahweh for that pork chop. You can't eat that.
That's blatant sin.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 29.
And this is also to show that, to show to the individual that you're not trying to be holier than thou, and you're trying to separate, like, that's kind of like disrespectful to somebody. Like, yo, you don't even know what, it's just a regular plate of food. Mm-hmm. But you're assuming that I'm an idol worshiper. You're assuming all these things. Don't make those accusations. And you don't need to act. That might offend somebody that you ask them, oh, is this sacrifice to an idol? Mm-hmm. But like, yo, when you see me doing any, just because I ain't an Israelite or I ain't doing, where you see me doing all these different things, that's already causing an opportunity for a person to move further away from you. Whereas if you sit down and you eat with somebody and they see how you carry yourself, or you say, well, I can't eat this over here, but I'll eat this. Mm-hmm. Oh, why? Why wouldn't you eat that? You open up a conversation and have an opportunity to break bread with them. Go ahead.
Verse 29. Conscience, I say not your own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? For if I by grace be a partaker, why am I evil spoken of for that which I give thanks? Whether therefore you eat or drink, or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of Elohim. Give none offense, neither to the Yehudim, nor to the Gentiles, nor to the assembly of Yahweh, even as I please all men in all things, not seeking my own profit, but the profit of many, that they may be saved.
Okay, so the difference between somebody behind closed doors that prepared a meal and they prayed over it and they prayed to Beelzebub or whatever. As long as you don't know that and you don't see that, why should you not be able to eat if the food is clean food and it's not like some unclean type food? Why should you have to suffer because of somebody else's conscience? But now if they do this thing in front of you for their conscience and so that they can see that this is wrong, now you have to separate yourself. So I can't do this because it's wrong. Now you're making an example, and other people that may be on the fence might look at you and say, you know what? I think he's right. Maybe I don't need to do this too. But why should you cause yourself to suffer and nobody gets any kind of lesson out of anything just to be holier than thou? Why? Why should your liberty be judged for another man's conscience? You have the liberty to do that because you're going to turn around and you're going to give praise and glory to the Most High. You're going to say your own prayer before you eat that food.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Now again, we read about how Yahweh knows how to lead a man out of temptation of his flesh, and he will not give us more than we can bear. And that's a very deep statement. I didn't really understand that statement. I used to take Yahweh won't give you more than what you can bear to the point of, well, I know I couldn't bear if I had to go through this, so he's never going to do that to me. I had to learn the hard way. That's not what that means. Right. What that means is Yahweh will strengthen you in the time to deal with whatever it is that he needs you to go through. So we make statements like, oh, this would never, there's no way I can handle this. You can't, because there's another strength that's going to be given to you to handle certain things. And this is why he'll put certain afflictions on you and certain lusts that are very difficult for you to deal with, that you have to fight with all the way to the end, to keep you humble, and also so that he can strengthen you. And Saul is gonna elaborate on a certain situation that he's dealing with.
2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 1. It is not expedient for me, doubtless, to glory. I will come to visions and revelations of Yahweh. I knew a man in Mashiach about 14 years ago, whether in the body I cannot tell, or whether out of the body I cannot tell. Elohim knows. Such a one called up to the third heaven.
So who was that?
Yeshua.
There's only one person that was caught up to the third heaven. Yes. Nobody else went to the third heaven. That's where the Father sits. And there's only one person sitting on the right hand of the Father. Go ahead.
I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell. Elohim knows.
I can't tell. The man talked to me from heaven. Came down. I mean, this is something new. I didn't learn. He's like, I didn't learn about this in Pharisee school. Go ahead.
How that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such a one will I glory. Yet of myself I will not glory, but in my infirmities. For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool, for I will say the truth. But now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he sees me to be, or that he hears of me.
And what could this unspeakable words be said that's not lawful for a man to utter?
Could be about some end time prophecy that hasn't been open to man's understanding yet. Could be the seven thunders that uttered their voice, and he was like, no, don't speak those.
Or it could be, you know, when Yahshua is elaborating how there's no more animal sacrifices, which is against, you know, the commandments, because the commandment tell you when you do a sin, you do these animal sacrifices. So Saul is being given words that are directly from the authority of the Most High through the word in flesh, to the point where a normal man can't say these type of things because you don't have the authority to speak those kind of words. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Verse 8. For this thing I besought Yahweh thrice.
No. You're right. Verse 7.
Oh, verse 7. Here's me. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure.
All right. See, and this is another point of separation between somebody who is mashacht, which is to be anointed with the spirit, the oil being rubbed on them, and Adonai, Hamashiach. The difference, Hamashiach wasn't given that thorn in the flesh.
Nope.
Hamashiach was perfect, but yet he had to deal with the same passions and desires and lusts and all the things that we had to deal with. But he didn't have the physical thorn in the flesh which would penetrate him and make him in an unclean state. Go ahead.
For this thing I besought Yahweh thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Mashiach may rest upon me.
All right. So when you overcome this weakness that you have, you're overcoming it through the word, through the Mashiach, which is the word in flesh. So just because you didn't physically do the thing, you still have that thorn, that pain in your side that wants to commit that wicked act, those wicked thoughts, to the point where I know there's times during the day, every day, where a thought would come through my head and I'll just be like, man, like, I mean, it's just like stupid things. Like I'll be walking by something, see something. I'll be like, I could just steal that right there. Nobody would know. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you think about stealing? You don't even need that. Why would you even think about stealing? But the old flesh, the one that used to do those little things that, you know, used to make money back in the day, that's still here. But the mind is different. So I can't walk about thinking that I'm just some holy smokes when I'm still fighting certain desires to covet and to steal and to lie and do all those things that the former person used to do. So this is to keep you humble and not exalted.
That's it.
Because when you get into an exalted state, even a man of Yahweh's heart can fall, like Dawid did, because he was exalted. He thought he was better than what he really was. He thought he was so good he didn't have to go to war. He didn't have to fight. I'm good. If you read before, it was the people telling him, nah, you good. You ain't got to fight. You just stay here. You good.
I'll go back at 9. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Mashiach may rest upon me.
I glory that I ain't nothing, because it's through the power of this word, the power of Yahshua and Israel, is why I'm able to be made perfect. I'm being made perfect from him. This ain't me. I ain't that great of a person. This is the Mashiach. This is the word. This is literally the word that is making me a better person, not me. Because if it was me, I'd have been like that. I'd have been doing that. Go ahead. Verse 10.
Verse 10. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses, for Mashiach's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. I am become a fool in glorying. You have compelled me. For I sought to have been commended of you. For in nothing am I behind the very chiefest apostles, though I be nothing. Truly the signs of an apostle were wrought among you in all patience, in signs and wonders and mighty deeds. For what is it wherein you were inferior to other assemblies, except it be that I myself was not burdensome to you? Forgive me this wrong. Behold, the third time I am ready to come to you, and I will not be burdensome to you, for I seek not yours, but you. For the children ought not to lay up for the parents, but the parents for the children. And I will very gladly spend and be spent for you, though the more abundantly I love you, the less I be loved. But be it so, I did not burden you, nevertheless being crafty, I caught you with guile.
And verse 15, I was just talking about this with a sister today. It's like the more you give love to these people in the world, these worldly people that are led by the flesh, is the more that they hate you.
Less they esteem you.
And they take it, the world takes it as weakness. When you showing them love, even though they being crappy towards you, then they take that as a license that, he must need me for something. Or I'm just that great of a person. And they will hate you. And this is a clear sign that somebody's of the world. That when you show love to them, and ain't no greater love than this word, and you showing them the word and they hate you for that, that's a clear sign that they're of the word and that they're in the lust of their flesh. Go ahead.
Verse 16. But be it so, I did not burden you, nevertheless being crafty, I caught you with guile. Did I make gain of you by any of them whom I sent unto you? I desired Titus, and with him I sent a brother. Did Titus make gain of you? Walked we not in the same spirit? Walked we not in the same steps? Again, think you that we excuse ourselves unto you? We speak before Elohim and Mashiach, but we do all things, dearly beloved, for your edifying. For I fear, lest when I come I shall not find you such as I would, and that I shall be found unto you such as you would not. Lest there be debates, envyings, wraths, strifes, backbitings, whisperings, swellings, tumults. And lest, when I come again, my Elohim will humble me among you, and that I shall bewail many which have sinned already, and have not repented of the uncleanness and fornication and lasciviousness which they have committed.
All right, so obviously those same fleshly and lust-filled deeds were going on back then that we have to deal with now. That's why anybody cannot come and say, oh, a book is outdated. This was thousands of years ago. This doesn't apply to now. Well, all these same emotions are the same things that are causing us to fall. Exact same things. It's just even more developed now than it was back then, which means we need these instructions even more than they needed back then, because it was easy to hide the stuff they did. So we have to consider and understand that these same emotions, these same lusts, we're going to have to fight for the rest of our lives. But we have to understand that our salvation is literally being affected by whether or not we pick up that sword to fight, or whether we just lay down and allow ourselves to be filthy and stay in this war as a casualty. So let us all take this fight seriously and understand the danger that we are in every single day with every decision we make. Because we don't know that time when Yahweh's going to say, I'm ready to collect that debt that you owed. And that debt is something we can't afford to pay, which is our lives. That's all we have. And that's another reason why what Elder said, the heavyweights would go and they would clear their debts. They wanted to make sure they got all that stuff off their account. Anything that could be held against them. So every day that we walk and we decide that we're going to do what we want to do, we just piling up more and more and more sin debt. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? All right. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. All right, Brother Jonathan, can you go ahead and close us out in prayer?
Heavenly Father, Yah, we are privileged, Yahweh, to approach unto you, Yahweh, or even come together so that your spirit may dwell among us, Yahweh. Yahweh, even now we thank you for the understanding, the wisdom, and the knowledge that you've bestowed upon us. But Yahweh, let us not also forget that this is a manifestation of your compassion, of your unending love, and your protection over us, Yahweh. Thank you for preparing a table in the midst of our enemies. Thank you, Yahweh, for making an oasis in the midst of a whole desert, oh Yah. Thank you, Yahweh, for carrying us and protecting us in the midst of destructions and threats and turmoil all around us, Yah. We thank you, Yahweh, for setting a hedge of protection around us. And we're ever more thankful, Yahweh, that you're leading us into a path that will lead us back unto you, reconciling your creation back unto you, Yah. We thank you and we give you all halal and praise, Yah, for everything. And we continue to cast ourselves down at the altar as a sacrifice, Yahweh, that you may use us and dwell, may your spirit dwell in us, Yahweh, and use us to your glory for the edification of all and the salvation of all whom you will. In the name of Yahshua we pray. Amen.
Amen.